Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another day of Shadows Over Innistrad spoilers. So tomorrow we'll have another spoiler video, Thursday we'll have yet another, and then on Friday we'll begin our full set review once the full set's revealed, starting with the white cards. So if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe to the channel, definitely a good time to do so. But having said that, let's jump into the new information for today. We're going to start off by looking at all the tokens that have been revealed. So we'll start off with the white tokens. We have an Angel, Human Soldier, and Spirit here. Next is Black, Vampire Knight, and Zombie. We have one red, that's Devil. We have green with Insect, Ooze, and Wolf. We have a multicolor token, Human Cleric, which of course is white and black. And we actually have 6 pieces of art for the clue token. So 2 of these pieces of art on the left, we've seen these 2 before, but the other 4 are new pieces of art. And actually it's pretty cool. I think they're doing this because they're not giving us as many of those ad cards. So I'm cool with that. I'd rather see more artwork than ad cards, so this is great. And finally we have our 2 emblems, one for Jason, one for Arlen Cord. So having said that, let's move on to the new cards for today, starting off with Angelic Purge. 1 white, 2 generic, it's a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast Angelic Purge, sacrifice a permanent, exile target artifact, creature, or enchantment. So maybe it's not Oblivion Ring, but it's still a pretty good removal spell for white. Costs 3, so it's relatively cheap, and it does have a drawback, but you might be able to work that drawback into potentially a benefit for you. For example, maybe this is a way to get rid of Demonic Pack. I don't know. Somebody figure that out and try to brew that. But aside from that, it's still good removal. This is going to be great and limited for you. When you're playing white, you need removal. This will do just fine. As far as standard's concerned, I think you could see some play there as well, just because white decks and maybe even white-green decks could potentially be a thing depending on some of the cards that come out over the next few days. And if there is a white or white-green deck in the metagame, it's going to need some means to protect itself and have some removal, and this is going to be a good candidate for that. Next we have Handwear Militia Captain, which transforms into Westvale Cult Leader. This costs a white and a generic. It's a Human Soldier 2/2. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 4 or more creatures, transform. When it transforms, it's a Human Cleric, and its power and toughness are equal to the number of creatures you control. At the beginning of your end step, you put a 1/1 white and black Human Cleric creature token onto the battlefield. So let's talk about limited first. Yeah, it's a bomb. It's a grizzly bear with all upside and all sorts of crazy upside. So limited games, usually you're going to be relatively creature heavy. This thing, if it can survive and transform, you have a pretty sizable creature in your hands and a token generator to boot. Yeah, that's great. Now, it doesn't have evasion or anything like that, and that might make it not game ending in that regard, but it's still going to do a lot of work for you. It's still going to be a great card in limited. As far as standard goes, if there's a white weenie or a white Selesnya deck that can make it into the metagame, then this could potentially be a part of it. I'm sure Craig Wesco is out there brewing it right now as we speak, and I love that style deck. I hope it does make it into the metagame. Can't really say for sure right now. Obviously, we'll see more of the set over the next couple days, and the picture might become clearer, but it's very possible. I think it's good enough to get there. Next we have Nohurries Machinations. 1 white, 1 generic. It's an enchantment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gains indestructible until end of turn, and you can pay a red and a generic, and this will deal 1 damage to target blocking creatures. Now don't underestimate that ability if you're in Boros, because it does really wreak havoc with blocking for your opponent and does force them into maybe some bad blocking situations, and it can be quite good. So as far as limited goes, I don't usually love enchantments necessarily, but this one's cheap enough that I'm comfortable probably gambling on it. If I have a relatively creature heavy deck and I'm in Boros, I'd probably run it. I'd like to try it out, see how it goes. Other than limited, I don't really see a whole lot of practical applications for it, but I think it'll be fine in that format. Next card, bear with me here, I'm going to try to say it now. Triskaidekaphobia, and this costs 1 black, 3 generic. It's an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose 1. Each player with exactly 13 life loses the game. Then each player gains a life. Or each player with exactly 13 life loses the game. Then each player loses a life. So, first off, for those of you not aware, the title of this card actually means Fear of the number 13. And if you look at the artwork, there's 13 of everything in here, which is actually kind of awesome. I love this piece of art of the guy like running away from the cabin. It's awesome. So as far as the card goes, fun commander card, fun kitchen table card. It's really variable, obviously, but at the same time, I could see playing this in commander just for no other reason to just kind of have fun with it and just kind of mess around with everybody's life totals and draw people closer to 13. And it really invokes the whole idea of the fear of the number 13. If nothing else, this is just a theming home run. So this card's really awesome. I don't know how much play it's going to see, but like I said, throw it in a commander deck. It's not going to be probably super powerful there, but it could be fun. Next is Avacyn's Judgement. 1 red, 1 generic. It's a sorcery. Madness cost of a red and X. Avacyn's Judgement deals 2 damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures and or players. If Avacyn's Judgment's madness cost was paid, it deals X damage divided as you choose among those creatures and or players instead. Talk about limited first. Even if you never play it for the madness cost, this can still be decent. Doing 2 damage to maybe a 2 toughness creature or a couple 1/1s can actually be very good in limited, and you'll probably be happy to play this in a lot of cases. As far as standard goes, you might see a few copies get there, especially if there is a small creature deck out there like the White Weenie style deck, or even something like Zombie Tokens or something. This could see play, or at least maybe sideboard play in standard, so keep an eye on it. As far as the madness cost goes, I mean, that's a nice bonus. It gives you a little bit of versatility if you are able to discard it, but at the same time, there's other cards that are easier to get that type of effect that are in standard right now, so I don't see it replacing anything else that's out there that's being used, but I think the fact that doing 2 damage for 2 is just good enough. Next is Goldnight Castigator. 2 red, 2 generic. It's an angel. This one's a mythic. 4/9, flying haste. If a source would deal damage to you, it deals double that damage to you instead. If a source would deal damage to Goldnight Castigator, it deals double that damage to Goldnight Castigator instead. So this is a big gamble card. This is for the gamblers out there that like to roll the dice. Yeah, it's extremely powerful. 4/9, flying haste for 4. Although you do have to remember it's taking double damage. So really, it's more of a maybe 4/5. Look at it that way, and it's still good, don't get me wrong, but you're opening yourself up to a potential beating at the same time. So here's the thing that's a little awkward about this card. If you're losing, you're not going to want to play it, and you could draw this and it really could be a dead card because it's just going to lead you to losing the game as opposed to winning the game. If it had lifelink or something like that, maybe it would be a little more playable in certain circumstances, but as it stands now, I just think that there'll be times you just plain can't put it down. You would have been better off drawing another creature that could block. Now, having said that, I do like to gamble sometimes. I do like to roll the dice. Could I see myself putting this in a limited deck? Yeah, I could, because when it works, it's going to feel really good, right? And maybe it's a win more, I don't know, but at the same time, I might run it. It's just so cheap and tempting. I might run it. Maybe that's not the right play, but I'm going to run it. The thing you do have to think about, though, is if your opponent's playing a very wide creature deck, this becomes very bad, or if they're playing a lot of burn, this becomes very bad. So maybe it's more something you sideboard in once you know your opponent's playing maybe more of a slow, grindier, controlled style deck. And you can work this in and just kind of try to blindside them. But other than that, I don't know. I don't really feel comfortable playing this in like standard. I just think there's much too much variance. Could a more broken format like a Legacy or something get this out like on turn 1 and do something with it? They probably could, but I think there's also better targets if you're going to do wacky hijinks like reanimation or something like that. So I think there's just better things in those other formats. So yeah, it's a mythic. It's all right. I think it's interesting in design, but I don't know if it's quite the mythic I want to open. Next is Fevered Visions. 1 red, 1 blue, and 1 generic. It's an enchantment. At the beginning of each player's end step, that player draws a card. If the player is your opponent and has 4 or more cards in hand, Fevered Vision deals 2 damage to him or her. So it's kind of like a Howling Mind that's going to give you a little more advantage because potentially maybe some point you could potentially do some damage to your opponent. But I'm not super thrilled about this card. I mean, some decks want card draw, and they don't mind giving the extra card draw to their opponents to do so. Mill decks, for example, will want to do something like that. I don't really think the pieces are here for a mill deck in any sort of constructed format like Standard. But in Limited, maybe you just happen to draft a whole bunch of mill cards and you decide you're just all in on that strategy. Well, this is another piece to that puzzle that will do fine in that deck. Other than that, I'm probably not touching this one. I don't want my opponent to draw cards, even if I'm drawing cards. And this gets worse, obviously, in multiplayer games like Commander, because now, yes, you're drawing an extra card, but so are all your opponents at the same time. And of course, life levels are higher in those games as well, so the 2 damage is even less meaningful. So yeah, it's a very niche card. I think it has a very specific target, and that's that one particular style of deck in Limited. Next is Invocation of St. Traft. 1 blue, 1 white, a generic, and this is an aura enchantment, and you enchant creature. Enchanted creature has, whenever this creature attacks, put a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. Exile the token at end of combat. So basically this gives any creature the Geist of St. Traft effect. Now, here's the awkward part for me. It doesn't give it hexproof. Remember, Geist had hexproof, which made it a little bit better. So it's easy to get 2 for 1 here. Real easy to get 2 for 1. And because of that, I'm probably not running this in Standard. Would I throw it into one of my decks in Limited? Perhaps. I do shy away from auras that don't give me immediate benefit or can replace themselves and stuff like that. But it's powerful. I might run it just to try it and just see if I can get it across. But if my opponent has a lot of removal, then I'm probably boarding it out real quick. So yeah, that's the nature of it. The other thing is you have to have a good creature to put it on. So you're hoping for something like hexproof or indestructible. And if you don't have that, creature can be very fragile. Anyone who's played with Geist has been in that situation where you have a 2/2 hexproofer, but you just can't attack in with it without it dying, so it kind of sits there and doesn't do a whole lot for you. So making this an enchantment just kind of makes the whole thing worse and not really feel that great. Some people thought, well, maybe you can throw this on a hexproof creature in a control build in Standard, but I just think at that point it's a win more. I'd rather just have more control cards in my hand than this, which it just feels like a waste if I draw a second copy of or something like that. So yeah, it is what it is. I do like the fact that they kind of have a throwback though to an older card from the last Innistrad block. Alright, last card of the day. It's Theremin Gargoyle, which turns into Stonewing Antagonizer. And this is a artifact creature gargoyle, costs 1. It's a 2/2 defender, pay 6, transform it, and it transforms into an artifact creature gargoyle horror, 4/2 flying. Now, here's the thing I want to say about this card. First off, it's very cheap. And yeah, it does have Defender, but you're only paying 1 for a 2/2 with potential in the later portion of the game to actually be a creature that might have some significance. So in Limited, I love this. I would play it. I'm very happy with this card, and it's an uncommon, so you'll see a fair amount of these around. The other thing, though, that's really exciting about this card is if this ends up in your graveyard, you're halfway to Delirium. So if you're playing any kind of Delirium strategy at all, or maybe Madness/Delirium, this is going to be a fantastic card to get into your graveyard to help you get there really fast. So this is a cool utility card, and because of that, I think it could see some play in Standard if that Delirium deck exists. And I kind of think maybe it will. Maybe it will be a Golgari style deck, and this could be a piece of it. So watch out for this one. It looks a little bit like, oh yeah, a 2/2 defender, sure. But I think there's a lot more going on here if you look closer at the card, and it could be an enabler for some crazy stuff. So keep an eye on it. And having said that, those are cards for today. So we will be back tomorrow and then again on Thursday with some more spoilers. And then on Friday, we will begin our full set review. Until then, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day.
Hey, thanks as always for watching. This video, like all my videos, was made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Even a donation of $1 helps me to keep growing this community and creating better quality videos for all of you. Check out our Patreon page for exclusive giveaways and future goals for the channel. If you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the MTG news, spoilers, set reviews, product openings, or finance videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a good day.